Hey, Tim Sykes here, and we have a little stuff to go over this weekend. The overall markets are very, very shaky right now. The S&P is right near its multi-month lows. Same goes for the Dow, and same goes for the Nasdaq. 3 out of 4 stocks follow the overall market, so I would be very, very careful with whatever you trade right now. And I think that's probably why if you look at my recent trades, my biggest pattern that's working right now are these morning dip buys. If I chase a stock and I buy it when it's breaking out, as I would in a better overall market situation, it's just not working as well. The morning panic dip buys are working best, so you'll see me doing them again and again and again because I'm a big student and believer in patterns. So, like GOPH was a morning dip buy, ASTC was a morning dip buy. That was actually a really good trade. I had a small position. TITN, I chased a little. FUSZ was a morning dip buy. PTOTF, that was in my longer term. FUSZ, WNDW. I mean, these are all morning dip buys. So that's what's working best for me in terms of patterns. I have 500 plus video lessons on buying dips and specifically morning panics on Profitly that you guys should be watching. I'm getting too many messages, people being like, I don't know what you look for. There's 500 plus video examples of this one pattern. I'll post a link just below this video. I'm also going to post a link to this blog post I just wrote about Conor McGregor's assault and probable upcoming downfall. Again, like I said, I'm a big student of patterns. We see this far too often with celebrities and athletes where they think that they're, bigger than the law. Their egos just become ridiculously too big, and that gets them into trouble with, violence and relationships and just so many stupid things. Like, as an athlete or a celebrity, you've worked so hard to get to the place where you have gotten, and you just throw it all away because you don't think. And the cool thing about, trading, you're never going to be a celebrity. I've done a million TV shows and I'm like a blip on the celebrity screen. Like I'm like an F-rated celebrity if you look at, IMDb or something. And I've done as much press as any trader in the world has ever done. So you don't have to worry about becoming a true celebrity. But if you do become my next millionaire student, you are going to have to worry about wealth. And wealth can be fleeting too. You might not get the public recognition that, people like Conor McGregor or Tiger Woods or Martha Stewart or Mike Tyson, a lot of these people, who just got so stupid so quickly, you know, it just blows my mind. But if you do get wealthy, and I hope that you do, it's going to take a lot of studying. It's not going to be easy. But if you do have this situation where you're so ridiculously successful, you have to think at all times. I know that many of you think that, like, oh, all your problems are over if you become a millionaire. Millionaires have their own problems. I know several billionaires and they have their own problems. I never want to become a billionaire. I said this in one of my TEDx talks a few months ago and everyone was shocked, but I know literally probably about maybe a dozen billionaires, and the majority of them are not happy because once you become a billionaire, you have so many responsibilities, you have so much public pressure, it becomes a prison. So, right now I'm only a millionaire, and that's fine. If I ever make $1 billion, I'll just give it away. I'll take that whole pressure situation off, and I'll give more money to charities. I think that you can live a pretty good life with just a few million in the bank. But even as you are a millionaire, there's still some pressure, much more than non-millionaires. And you need to think, like Connor. I'll post the link just below this video to this blog post. A lot of people have many different reactions about it. I think that there's some good lessons from it. But Connor just lost his mind for a little bit. He let his emotions get the best of him. And, he's going to have to now deal with something that took less than like 2 minutes of anger. He's going to have to deal with this for the next few years. Okay, so if you ever lose control, even for just a few seconds or a few minutes, when you do become successful, there's great implications and consequences. Even if you're not successful, if you lose your temper and your anger. I saw some people messaging me being like, oh, this is all about celebrities and rich people. I mean, this applies to everybody, okay? Imagine if you have a small trading account, as many of you guys do, and you're just like, screw it, I'm tired of trying to grow my account gradually, I'm just going to go all in. And you know what, screw it, I'm going to use leverage. And for whatever reason, let's say the trade goes wrong and you blow up and you lose all your money and you lose all your confidence, and all the friends and family who have been telling you to not trade and stay away from penny stocks, and they're proven right because you let your emotions get out of control. So I'm making this video lesson because I don't want to see that happen. Whether you're a billionaire, whether you're a millionaire, whether you're broke, whether you have just a little bit of money, whether you have a lot of fame or no one even knows your name. All it takes is a little snapping and a little loss of composure and, letting your emotions just guide your actions. That can be your downfall, okay? And the more successful, obviously, you become and the more well-known, you have more people gunning for you. I have my haters. I think it's pretty funny. For those of you who don't know, my first online hater literally was Michael Good. He wrote a blog post that said Timothy Sykes is full of BS. It's still up. And we went back and forth in the comments section, and he eventually agreed to try out my DVDs, and now, he became my first millionaire student. So I enjoy my haters. If I can turn my first hater into my first millionaire student, there's hope for everybody. But as you do get more successful, you do have more pressure, and there are more people gunning for you. And Connor, with his trash talking and his attitude, like, I loved it, but now it's going to get him in a lot of trouble legally, lawsuits, just loss of being a good candidate for sponsors. I mean, it's just stupid. I understand there are certain celebrities who just have like bad repeated behavior, like again and again and again, and they can't change. That's who they are. Connor, obviously, he's a fighter. He's never had any assault charges. He's never had any criminal behavior. I mean, as a fighter, you have the benefit of being able to be angry and then take your anger out in your profession. Like, this is the stupidest thing ever, to take your anger out outside of the octagon, outside of the ring. And for those of you who don't know, I like Connor. I mean, I went to one of his fights, his like 13-second fight. I was using my phone and I was like showing the whole crowd, and I was like, look at the energy of this place. And then when I went back to the fight, it was already over. I actually missed the main punch. It was kind of funny. But he could have taken his beef. I mean, he has beef with a fighter, with another fighter. So he could have gone to Dana White, who's like the head of UFC, and been like, look, I have beef with this guy. I want to fight him. And Dana would be like, great, let's set it up. And he could have trained for months. He could have built it up. He could have had a multi-million-dollar payday and used his anger to help his career. And instead, he threw it all away. So I don't know how bad the lawsuits are going to be. People are debating whether he's going to fight again or not. I don't know. I don't care. The fact is that he just screwed up big time. And whether you like him or not, you can learn from it. So use your brain. Don't let your emotions get the best of you. If you have beef with somebody, like, first of all, try to squash beef. Like, most beefs are not useful unless you're like a UFC fighter, or a boxer or something like that, or athlete, and then you can use it to train harder. But if you can't squash it, like, just try to minimize it and try to control yourself, because I hate seeing this. It's just it's going to play out in the press, and it's just a nasty pattern. We see this happen again and again. The reason why I'm bringing this up, I told you, I look at patterns, okay? I see patterns again and again. Right now, I see the markets are dropping, and it's been very scary for several weeks. I've been warning the entire time. If you look at all of my video lessons in 2018 and even in the end of 2017, this whole kind of action is very, very scary after a near decade long bull market. So we're due. We're over fucking due for this. And some people are acting all surprised. It reminds me like the Bitcoin longs who are getting just crushed because they didn't want to believe that Bitcoin was actually tracking very similar to the NASDAQ bubble of 2000. I had a blog post on that. Guess what? It's almost neck and neck. I'll actually do an updated post on that this coming week. But you got to pay attention to patterns. You guys should not be aggressively long in the 8th, 9th, and 10th year of a bull market. I don't care what you think, and you shouldn't be aggressively long on Bitcoin when it goes from, hardly anything to nearly 20,000. If you chase these things and you let your emotion control you and, help you make bad investment decisions, guess what? You're going to pay the price. Connor's going to have to deal with tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuits for the next few years. And you guys who chase Bitcoin have losses. You guys who are chasing tech stocks and thinking that the market has to bounce back to its highs immediately, we all pay the price for our mistakes. And I'm not perfect by any means. I make a lot of mistakes, and I personally let my anger get the best of me far too often. I mean, it's one of my main deficiencies as a trader and teacher, and I got to be honest about it. I'm trying to do better. But we can see these patterns again and again. And I think that in a roundabout way, the best pattern right now that I'm showing, pretty much every day with these morning dip buys, that's the best pattern to profit consistently in this market. I would not be holding stocks long overnight. I'm not holding stocks long overnight because you don't know if the markets are going to drop down 2 or 3% overnight and you're unable to cut losses quickly. Or, our political leaders like to surprise the world. They might have something positive and then the market goes up 2 or 3%. So I can't short either. I don't like this, surprising environment, but I adapt to it. So I take my very small conservative positions and I wait for the stocks to come to me. GOPH is the latest pump. You can see here, this is a 10-year chart. I mean, it's such a piece of crap. They've disclaimed all knowledge about pumping, and yet somehow, it acts exactly like every other pump. I mean, this was a nice, this was a quick dip to buy into, but it was a nice little 10% bounce. And then this drop all the way to 3, I wanted it to go lower. That turned out to be a nice dip buy, a nice 30% bounce. And then LFIN is probably the poster child for bounces, where it was down from 70 to 10. I had it on my watch list pretty much every single day as a potential dip buy, and the thing tripled off its lows. Fantastic job for dip buyers. But now I'm seeing a few people who were long in the 20s, and now the SEC has filed, pretty much fraud charges, and this stock is halted. It's going to get crushed when it reopens. Why are you chasing a stock that's tripled off its lows? This is a classic number 6 from my penny stocking framework and penny stocking framework part 2 guides, which too many of you guys are not watching. Props to a few of you guys who were shorting it. It was too scary for me to short, okay? I've turned into like this chicken shit, like short seller. I can't really pull the trigger, but some of my students have, and I know a few of them were short here in the 20s, and they're going to clean up when it comes down. Shout out to my student Huddy, who just absolutely has been nailing it, shorting LFIN into the bounce and shorting, what was the other play that he had? I was giving a live webinar. He was shorting 2 stocks. I don't know. There was another one. But it was just following very simple patterns. That's the whole gist of this entire video. Now I want to know. Hold up. I got to give him proper props. And I didn't short the other one either. That's why I don't know the ticker. Because it was under $1 a share, and I'm not good at shorting stocks under $1 a share. So students like Huddy are doing better than me. That's fantastic. Was it? Oh my God, now I can't even find it. It wasn't even on my watch list. It was a 2-day winner. Anyways, I'm sure I'll hear it in the comments. The point is, I want you to pay attention to patterns. Do not buy these pump looking charts when they've tripled off their lows, okay? You're begging for it. Those shorts, I'll tell you the truth, got a little lucky with that, SEC filing, but at the same time, there's no way that you should have been long this chart after the triple. I don't mind buying the first green day, maybe even on the breakout of the second green day, but not on the third green day. And for some of you guys, who are, chasing GOPH, I'm seeing people on social media where they're buying it here in the mid fours. Why are you buying a stock after it has had 2 big green days? The only time to buy it is the breakout over the previous high here in the low threes, or on the dip in the low threes. Both times you would have made money. But if you start chasing these stocks, and again, you feel bad that you missed out, so you chase. And I know that feeling, FOMO, fear of missing out, but you have to try to control it. You have to buy the breakouts. If you miss the breakouts, be content to sit on the sidelines and wait for a pullback. In this case, you had that opportunity on GOPH. 2 opportunities to buy it in the low threes on the initial breakout or on the dip. There is no way that you should be buying this in the mid or high fours. And from what I saw, there were no shares to short. So I don't think many people really shorted this. But GOPH is a classic pump looking chart. LFIN is a classic pump looking chart. And FUSZ is a classic pump looking chart. There's no way that you should be buying this after like 6 or 7 green days in a row. I'm sorry. I am perfectly happy to miss a trade rather than chase it. And this was a good dip buy too here. This was a nice 50% bounce in one day. It was on my watch list. Several of you guys captured it. I'm here in Asia for a few days, working on several of my new schools. So my time zones are not necessarily the most conducive to trading all these patterns, but I'm taking my hits here or there. I'm taking my singles on GOPH and ASTC. ASTC, I absolutely nailed it, saying that in the past it has failed to spike near the open. So, okay, obviously past performance is not like always going to be indicative of future returns, but it's pretty damn close. ASTC failed right near the open. I had sold it, I think, like 5 or like 7 minutes before the open because it had hit my goals. I bought it at 270-ish, sold it in the low threes, took my roughly 10% win. Nothing huge, but it was there. I bought it on a dip. It had news, and I actually had a really good sell because I paid attention to the pattern that it had just a few days ago on similar news. So pay attention to patterns, okay? They work more times than not. And I'm sorry that, sometimes the patterns lead to the downfall of our favorite celebrities and sports heroes. But, if you do not control your emotions, it's just bad. Bad things are going to happen. I don't think that you ever hear of a story being like, yo, you know what? He lost his temper and really good things happened. Or she lost her temper. Yeah, it's just not like a guy or girl thing, right? Like, no one loses their temper and something good comes out of it. So you should try to control your temper the best that you can. I know it's hard. Trust me. I personally have this problem. But hopefully by studying, stock market patterns, like controlling your greed too, controlling your excitement, by studying stock market patterns, by seeing examples like this and thinking about it, that's all you can do to try to get better. We're all imperfect. We're all going to eventually be taken over by machines and be wiped out. So it doesn't really matter what you do in the next few decades. We're pretty much all fucked, I think. But I think that we can live good lives before that happens, before Judgment Day. I think it'll probably be, several decades. I don't think that it's going to happen right now. So we can live very good lives up until the machines take over. And I'm not even sure that the machines are going to take over. I'm kind of half joking. I'm listening to how I sound right now. Live the best life that you can. Make the best trades that you can. And study the past. Study these patterns that happen again and again. So I'm going to do 2 links. One to this blog post that you should read about Conor McGregor, and 2 with 500 of my video lessons on dip buying, Go through them all. Be meticulous. And if you promise to be, leave a comment underneath this video saying, I will study. This is why I always say study hard, no days off. Study the past, study these patterns. You can do better if you study hard. Thank you.